Hey guys, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Eric Smith. I'm an offensive line coach for a local high school. I'm also a contributor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. On this video, we're going to take a look at my grades for the offensive line for week one of the 2024 season. The Dolphins' offensive line, it was surprisingly good considering the criticism they've gotten all offseason. You can see on the graphic here, I gave them an 8.63 overall grade. And the Jaguars' defense might not have been the best one they're going to face all season, but they're definitely a good test to start the season. I know that fans are passionate about the Dolphins and they want to see the team improve in every way. But sometimes that passion is misguided, and the offensive line often seems to be the target of that criticism. Other position groups have just as glaringly bad plays, whether it's Tua missing open receivers, you've got receivers dropping the ball, you've got blown assignments in defensive coverages, or even some issues in run defense that were completely masked by one very well-placed punch by Javon Holland in what would have otherwise been a walk-in touchdown. Or sometimes it's blocking that is the issue, but it's nothing to do with the five offensive linemen on the field. And this all tends to manifest into a very small subset of plays that are being used to generalize the overall performance of the offensive line. In my grading, most of the plays highlighted by fans were the ones that were marked as zeros in my grades, but really outside of that, there wasn't that many glaringly bad misses by the offensive line, and that's an improvement over what we've seen in previous seasons. I'm not going to sit here and sell you that there's 5 Pro Bowlers on this offensive line, but as evidenced by that overall grade for week one, this is definitely a performance you can win with. For this week, we're mainly going to look at some negative plays for these individuals, and I'm doing that so that we can set somewhat of a baseline for where we can look for improvement. But you'll see with the grades that these plays shouldn't be the only takeaway from this performance. My username on Twitter or X is the same as it is on YouTube, and it's listed on the bottom of the screen. For additional film breakdown, I suggest you head over there and check out my timeline. We're going to start from the lowest graded player and work our way to the highest. So Rob Jones is first, and as you can see, I have him in an 8.00, and while that performance was the worst of the day, I didn't feel like it was quite the fall off from the rest of the line that others may have seen. In my grading, I only had him with 2 plays that I graded him with a 0, and a couple of others where he got partial credit. So let's take a look at those 2 plays that I considered complete losses. Here's the first of the 2 negative plays that I have for Rob Jones. And this is going to be a jet to the left. And as you can see, Rob Jones here at left guard kind of gives a punch to that defensive tackle. Looks like he's starting to climb to that linebacker and then kind of has a oh crap moment looking back to that defensive tackle. I'm not sure what the actual assignment was here, but whether he was supposed to cut off that defensive tackle or climb to that linebacker, he ended up not doing either of those. And for that reason, he got a 0 grade on this play. And the other one for Rob Jones, again, we have him here at left guard, and we're going to get a outside zone to the right. And as you can see there, he's trying to reach this 4-eye defensive tackle over here. That defensive tackle, jumps to the right a little bit, and Rob Jones does not do a great job of getting his head across. Had he maintained contact, it may have been able to open up a lane there. But by losing connection there with that defensive tackle, his guy is able to make that play. So, like I said, these were the only 2 plays that I had marked as Rob Jones losing complete credit on. And he had a couple others where there were partial credit. But overall, it was a decent day for him despite being the lowest graded offensive lineman. Our next lowest graded player is going to be Aaron Brewer, and you can see that he's just below the average, coming in at a 8.56 for week 1. And similar to Rob Jones, Aaron Brewer had 2 negative graded plays on the day and then a few other partial credits. So we're going to take a look at his 2 negative graded plays. So this first one is going to be kind of a duo concept. And you can see that Aaron Brewer is blocking backside on that defensive tackle who swims over him and then is able to make the play. As we know, Aaron Brewer is a smaller center. I think this is one of the areas where it gets him in trouble a little bit because as a smaller center, going up against a big one technique defensive tackle here, he's really got to commit to this block to try to get movement here. And with that tackle right off the snap slanting across his face, with the way that Brewer has to sell out to try to get movement, it creates a scenario where he's not able to adjust and make that play. Now, he does this well plenty of other times, so not something to have a huge concern about, but still a play that's going to get a negative grade. And then his other negative play is kind of similar to Robert Jones, the one we looked at with him. This is, again, a outside zone play, and he's not able to get across and seal that one technique. And again, this is something that typically he does really well. And this is just a scenario where he doesn't get that initial movement and gives up some penetration here. And you can see that he ends up finishing the block. Had everything else been perfect on this play, maybe it doesn't create such an issue. But as it stands, this is definitely not what you want to see him doing. You want to see him either getting his head across and being able to seal that lineman or driving him straight down the line and not giving up those 3 or 4 yards of penetration that he does here. All right, our next grade is going to be at right guard. Going to be Liam Ikenberg coming into a similar grade as Aaron Brewer, but a little bit higher and just above the average for the line this week. Going to be Liam Ikenberg. He actually had a really good day. He did give up the 1 sack, and it was really bad. But outside of that, in 77 snaps that I graded, I had that one being as a 0. And then I had 3 other plays where I had him as partial credit. And for the rest of the day, I had him doing his job. All right, so here's the one negative play that I have graded for Liam Ikenberg, and I'm certainly not the first person to point this out, and everybody watching the game saw this as well because as soon as Liam made this mistake, he instantly became the worst guard in the NFL, once again, in the minds of many. Definitely not going to sell you that there's a whole lot of positive from this individual play, but what I will try to convince you of is that Ikenberg played well in this game. And every offensive lineman is going to have a bad play here or there, even the best ones. So if we can get anywhere close to this level of consistency from Liam Ikenberg at right guard this center, we should all consider this a huge win. All right, 2 more to go. Our next highest grade belongs to Austin Jackson. He came in at 8.85, similar to Liam Ikenberg. He had 1 bad snap and a few half-grade snaps. The one bad play that he had is going to be the one that everyone's familiar with. And here we're going to get Austin Jackson at right tackle. And he was put into a bad situation on this play. This was after the Jalen Waddle 60-yard completion. And then there were 2 negative plays that had nothing at all to do with the offensive line. And now we're sitting at 3rd and 15. And for all the progress that Austin Jackson has made over the past 2 years, he still is not a great pass protector. So when we put him into this type of situation and don't give him any help, we shouldn't be overly surprised that he loses. Now, this is a really ugly loss and certainly don't want to see anyone lose this bad. But I do feel that if we're trying to play to our players' strengths, that we've got a player like Austin Jackson, who's a really good run blocker, but struggles in pass protection, that maybe we should give him some help when we get in 3rd and 15. All right, last player. Shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone that Terron Armstead was our highest graded player in this game, coming in at a 9.03, and kind of the same with the other guys that we've talked about. He had one grade that was a complete negative all day, and then he had a few others that were partial credit, but in typical Terron Armstead fashion, even those partial graded plays are less than others, and he came out as the highest graded player this week. So here is that one negative graded play from Terron Armstead, and this is going to be a screen to Devon Achane. This is the one that it appeared that Achane scored. They ended up not reviewing it, and then Achane ended up scoring on the next play. But as you can see here, that Armstead does a good job getting in space and then just completely whiffs on the block for the player who ends up making the tackle. So as good of a player as Armstead is, you're still going to have a play here or there where this happens. Just like the other guys we talked about, not going to make too much of this. He is still a top-level tackle in the NFL, and looking forward to him trying to stay healthy for most of the 2024 season. All right, thanks for watching. As I said earlier in this video, you can find me on X or Twitter under the same handle, at OLCoachSmith63. I would love to talk to you over there about more offensive line play, or feel free to leave a comment on this video, and we'll talk again next week. Thanks, guys.